Hello and welcome to Standpoint. I am Precious Amayo. Now, all seems not to be well in the camp of the People's Democratic Party, though the party would like Nigerians to believe otherwise. But recent situation on social media has shown that, look, not everything is well with the party. It will seem as though the PDP is trying to make us believe that. But stakeholders in the party, comments from stakeholders in the party point us that there's a brewing crisis. The latest drama is over PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar's choice of a running mate. Benue State Governor Samuel Otom says that his River State colleague Nyesom Wike was the candidate chosen for the position of deputy, and that's by 14 out of the 17-member committee constituted by Atiku for that purpose. And that as such, Governor Wike should have been chosen as the running mate. But for former Governor of Ekiti, Ayo Fayose, he says he will not support a northern candidate as it is time for the South to produce the next president after 8 years of the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. The elephant in the room, who is Governor Wike, not much has been heard from him since Atiku decided that or chose Ifeanyi Okowa to be his running mate. Now, what does this portend for the PDP? I have joining me from Abuja studio the presidential campaign spokesperson for the Atiku presidential campaign and Ogun PDP governorship candidate Segun Sowunmi. Good to have you join us.
Good afternoon. It's nice to be here. How are you, Precious?
I'm very well, thank you. But whilst I say I'm very well, I'm not sure that we can say that for your party, especially with the recent comments we've seen from people we can call very important people in your party, the pillars of your party, as it were. What exactly is this crisis that is brewing in your party? Talk to us about it.
Well, I think first, TVC, you guys are late to the party. These matters have been discussed over and over and many other fora, and I think it's almost like a rested matter now. But for the benefit of some of your audience, let me just try and put some background to it. The laws of the country and the guidelines of INEC expect that once the presidential primary is over, because of the joint ticket, you need to pick a presidential, vice presidential running mate. In the case of the PDP, we have done that in the person of Dr. Otto Ifuwa, the now governor of Delta State, who is a running mate and vice presidential candidate of the PDP. In trying to arrive at that peak, we considered a lot of people, spoke to a lot of publics, had a lot of consultation, and 3 names were mostly touted. We were lucky to have 3 qualified presidential material in their own right in the person of Governor Udom of Akwa Ibom, Governor Wike of Rivers, and Governor Okonwa of Delta. Note that all of them are serving governors. Note that all of them are second-term governors, and note that all of them are very strong, competent, capable, ready-to-go candidates. And note that we also came south, and all of them are Christians. The balance that you need to put into place in picking a ticket has produced Dr. Okonwa, the governor of Delta State. Of course, naturally, people are going to have a couple of comments here and there, especially, because the seat can be occupied by 3 people. Only one will be favored. A lot of process has gone into it. We have picked that candidate. That candidate and the presidential candidate, Atiku, are about now getting themselves ready to commence campaign when the whistle is blown by INEC, sometimes in September. We've spent time talking about how people are feeling the Otom position, especially the Governor Wike position, and we have also spent time on some of the rumors, innuendos, and the make-believe of people that try to suggest that just because expression of interest and freedom of opinion will be translated into a crisis. No, it's not a crisis. It's expected. We're now moving to a point where everybody's getting comfortable. Conversations are going on at the background. Reach out is happening. Committees are working around the clock. And we're just a lucky party. At least our vice presidential pick is settled. I can't say the same of our rivals. They have placeholders who we never know whether they'll be able to change or not. So I'll say that it has raged on for a while. We've talked about it. We've ridden the storm. Comments have been made. The presidential candidate has spoken about it. He has said that, okay, I'm hearing I'm taking in all the comments. We'll meet everybody. We'll unite the party. The vice presidential candidate has spoken about it. He said, oh, gentlemen, that is expected in democracy. We have the ability to manage ourselves. Never mind. We'll work on it and we're good. And that's all there is to say. All of the excessive comments on it, I suppose it's generated because the PDP is the only party that has its full complements of presidential hopeful in place. That means we have a presidential candidate in Atiku Abubakar and we have a vice presidential running mate in Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa, QED.
Well, when you say that we're late to the party, I don't know how someone can be late to a party that is still ongoing, because every single day there is a comment from someone or a leader in your party. The latest comment is coming from the former governor of Plateau State, Jonah Jang, where he supported some of the comments also made by Governor Otom. So the party is still on. And when you also say that, when you say that conversation is ongoing, or there is dialogue and discussions ongoing, from the latest report we have, there was someone who your presidential candidate had sent to, I think is Adamu Waziri, who he sent to the governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike in Turkey, and Nyesom Wike had refused to meet with the person, which means that he's still very much aggrieved, and these conversations are not yielding any results. So let me ask you, because there are those who actually feel that your presidential candidate was not proactive in resolving some of these issues, that he waited for it to fester before resolving them. What's your comment on that?
If you have ever spent time wondering about managing, the rapprochement after an event, or you are a bit interested in the study of crisis management, especially when people's views and opinions and interests is involved, you will know that the first thing you have to do is that you have to give them the opportunity to ventilate. And you have to give them space to review themselves and, take into cognizance the reality of what has happened. And thereafter, you now start the deliberate but continuous motion towards getting everybody back on board. So it's following pretty known international arbitration model. You can't, a process of that nature cannot happen on Monday, and then by Monday evening, you try to pretend as if that's the best time to start clinking glasses and having champagne. It doesn't work that way. Some of these things takes time. Personality styles are different. Human relationships are different. The level of energy required to get the job done is different. Urgency of assignments are different. But I can tell you for free that all of that is going on. Don't forget, it's also in the space of, social media and a lot of conjecture that a meeting took place with Governor Wike and the presidential candidate of the APC, Ashwaji Bola Ahmed Tinubu, which, of course, none of this is not true. So when people say people didn't talk to themselves, people didn't see themselves, maybe it's not as correct as it should be. I think we should let the party and the players work on this building of trust and bringing themselves back to the fold. But I will only say absolutely and frontally that the governor of Rivers State is highly respected, just as the governor of Akwa Ibom State, who also didn't get picked, is highly respected, and a lot of other people in the Southern Hemisphere who could have been picked are also highly respected. There's also those who even believe that we should have gone into the core of the Southeast too. Those views are respected. I also have a view that I'm dealing with where some people even feel that they could have gone a lot younger, highly respected. So I'm trying to show you that if it was as simple as that, APC will not even have a placeholder as vice presidential candidate. They will have a presidential candidate. Labour will not have a placeholder as vice presidential candidate. They will have a presidential candidate. But because the PDP is far more experienced, far more prepared, far more ready to get the job running, that's why we have this. And it's generating comments and opinions because the Nigerians are interested. And we must thank them for their interest. But I must say very frontally, we are managing all of these matters. It will be fine. We will be very well. And anybody who is thinking is going to have
let me quickly jump in here, Mr. Segun Sowunmi. Let me just introduce my other guest, who is also now in the studio for this conversation. He is Jimmy Abia. He's also a member of the PDP. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And I'll bring him in shortly, but I just want to, because you seem to sound optimistic that things are being resolved, and I'm speaking with you, Segun Sowunmi. Before we bring in Jimmy Abia, your presidential candidate is out of the country, the national chairman is out of the country. Who exactly is resolving this crisis?
Well, you should notice that even the governor of Rivers State, who a lot of things centers around, is also out of the country. We are not a party that insists that technology does not help. Don't forget that this world has even experienced service delivery when the whole of COVID shut down everything. The world is no longer in 17th century where you can't make phone calls, you can't do video calls, you can't. They have 1,000,001 ways to communicate. And the opportunities of technology means that, look, I'm in Abuja, you're in Lagos, we're having a conversation. I can see you, you can see me. It's all what technology can give us. So people are talking, and the conversation is ongoing. Respected members of the party too are also involved and concerned. The presidential candidate has said, I've heard you all, I'm going to work on it, we have to unite ourselves. I don't know what else you would expect. We cannot pretend that those who are unhappy would automatically just start to smile the next day in the morning. That would be insensitive. The best we can do is try to say, oh, gentlemen, but I think the party is important. The issues of the country is important. The question around rescuing Nigeria is important. People are at home and they're not working, they're not going to school. People are dying every day. All of these big issues that we need to confront and say, look, we are a team. The People's Democratic Party is a 25-year-old institution. It's like a tribe. And if we have small issues within our tribe, I'm sure we will manage it, we will contend it. And luckily, we have time between now and September to be able to show the world that, like in our tradition, where we say it's a family affair, we will resolve this and everybody will be happy.
Let's bring in Jimmy Abia. I've been speaking with Segun Sowunmi, who is the spokesperson for the Atiku campaign. But when you listen to members of the PDP, and I know you are also a member of the PDP.
I'm not a member. I wanted to correct that.
Okay.
I'm not a member of the PDP.
When you listen to, sorry, I'm very sure we got that information wrong, but when you listen to members of the PDP, there seems to be optimism from the camp of the PDP that nothing is wrong. But for those who are outside looking in, I'm sure they know more than we do, but do you sense that there is crisis within the party and that the members of that party are just glossing over it?
Of course, there's a serious issue within the PDP. Everybody knows about this, unless we're not being truthful to ourselves. Everybody knows that for a governor, for Otom to come to TV, he has been to about 2 television stations to talk about this issue. For him to come live on TV to talk about the issues within PDP, that means that there's a serious issue within the PDP at this time, which the PDP should actually be trying to solve, trying to come together to solve at this time, and not trying to gloss over. There's a serious issue.
And how easy will it be for the PDP to whip everyone in line? Because I mean, PDP feels that it has the ability, and that's perhaps the where the sort of bragging comes from. We've always been able to put our house in order. But how easy will it be for the PDP to whip everyone in line and ensure that there is support from all the pillars of the party for their presidential candidate?
It's not going to be easy. I tell you what. I love Mr. Sowunmi's optimism. Of course, he has to be optimistic. He has to show that, of course, that the party will get it right. But PDP has not always been able to solve its problems. It was because of the same crisis, the same issues within the PDP that the PDP lost the 2015 elections. It was also because of the problems, the issues within the crisis within the PDP that the PDP also lost the 2019 elections. I tell you, some governors within the PDP worked against the PDP both in 2015 and in 2019 elections because of these same issues. And what are the issues with the PDP? The issue with the PDP is that the PDP is a political party that does not keep to its own rules. That is the problem with the PDP as a political party, that the PDP has not been able to keep to its own rules. A party sets rules, says this is what we're going to do. And at the end of the day, the party does a different thing. That is the problem with the PDP. I tell you.
But do you think, and I will get to Segun Sowunmi in just a minute, but do you think that the party itself and the presidential candidate should have even set up that committee in the first place, the committee to screen vice presidential hopefuls? Because it does seem like, from what we hear, 14 out of 17 members of that committee chose Governor Wike. But the presidential candidate himself went with Okowa. It does seem like he has already had his mind made up in the first place that is Okowa who he wants. So why didn't you think that committee was relevant in the first place? It wasn't relevant.
It wasn't relevant. It was a small screen because he never intended to go with whatever the committee, would come up. And I knew he was not going to go with, when he set up the committee, I was wondering. I had put it on, as soon as Atiku, I had put it online that Okowa was going to be Atiku's running mate. I knew. Atiku knew that Okowa was going to be his running mate. Why go ahead to set up a committee? What was it about? I had predicted it almost 2 weeks before they came up with that. I had said it. It was clear that he was going to go with Okowa. So what was the point setting up a committee and then throwing away whatever the committee came up with? And this is the problem with the PDP. The PDP has in its constitution that PDP would maintain the principle of rotation between the North and the South. And the PDP ought to have, in that convention, which produced Atiku Abubakar, ought to have zoned that presidency to the South. And in particular, even the Southeast. But the PDP went against it because of impunity. PDP is a party that was in government from 1999 and governed Nigeria with impunity. And that is what PDP has taken in-house today. The impunity PDP has not been able to met out of Nigerians in the past 8 years. PDP has taken it in-house. And that is what has become the problem, the nemesis of the PDP.
And let me take some of these your allegations and comments to Segun Sowunmi to respond to them. Because again, Mr. Segun Sowunmi, you've listened to Mr. Jimmy Abia. And this is not just his sentiments, this is how some Nigerians feel, that you have set yourself up not to win the hearts of the people, because a lot of Nigerians were looking up to you, those who feel disappointed with this government, that perhaps the PDP would come to the rescue, but that you have right from the very beginning, in terms of the primaries and even now, that you've continued to disappoint Nigerians, and perhaps you're setting yourself up to become even the third force in this race. What's your response?
Well, I understand that people sometimes wish to see what they wish to see, but not what really there is before them. Let me plead. A very senior party member, if you want to have an analyst by analyst conversation, you can do that. If you want to have a conversation that will tell you this is the official position and this is why these things are done, it's not an argument that we're going back and forth. So I need to set some records very firmly straight. Number one, when we picked Peter Obi as vice presidential running mate in 2019, when Atiku picked him, one of the challenges that happened then was that a lot of leaders, especially in the Southeast, were extremely vexed that he didn't consult them. He didn't allow them to weigh in on the matter and all that. I suppose that would have also influenced the candidate into saying, okay, let's go look at this. And there was not just a 17-man committee. There was a 17-man committee, which is often talked about. There was consultation with former presidents of the country. There was consultation with other critical stakeholders in Nigeria that are not captured within those 17. And there were about 4 committees. And the result is that this has happened. Now, was it done out of impunity? The answer is no. As at the time the PDP was coming to the 2023 cycle of these elections, we noticed that we had been in the South for a longer period. We have been in the South in 1999 with Obasanjo. We went to North, the president died, may so rest in peace, and we remained in the South with Jonathan. We recognized that there was an equity challenge with the Southeast, But we also recognize that for PDP, there was an equity challenge in other sections of the country, including the North Central, including the Northeast. And for equity, we said, throw it open. Again, I need to add for you, PDP does not run a zoning arrangement every 4 years. We run an 8-year zoning arrangement because we agree that if somebody wins an election, he has right of first refusal. And we don't want the confusion of saying somebody who is entitled to a second term has to be bogged down by zoning. Again, I tell you again, we left it open and all persons who wanted to contest were allowed to contest. And the whole of our campaign and the primary issues was clear for all to see. All of our leaders ran all over the countries and tried to be. Perhaps we don't even know that maybe but for the Electoral Act that reduced the number of delegates significantly, maybe the outcome would have been the same. But you see, the problem with democracy is that once you tell people to come and vote, you will have to live with the consequences of their vote. You cannot tell them to vote and then insist that if they don't vote the way you have assumed or anticipated, then the system is flawed. That's that. And now, I say again very, very frankly and with emphasis, the law and the electoral guidelines expect that certain things should happen within a certain date. The PDP has picked its candidate. We have also picked one of our numerous capacities that we have as vice presidential candidate. It is a settled matter. If anybody thinks that, oh, if the PDP is this, oh, they are doing impunity, oh, please, do your own that is not impunity. There are rivals sold forms to
Mr. Sowunmi, I have to put you on hold. I have a few minutes left for this conversation, and I want to take the last word from Jimmy Abia. There are those who are saying that, look, the Southeast is now up for play because PDP used to have the Southeast. It is now up for play because of the candidacy of Peter Obi. And now that the body language of Governor Wike and the 11 governors, even those from the South, who were not, some of them from the South, who were not present at the inauguration of the PDP Osun campaign council, that it also shows that somehow it looks like the South is now also up for play, either for Peter Obi or the candidate of the APC. So it's not guaranteed anymore for the PDP. I want to get your thoughts.
Of course, the two zones are not guaranteed at all for the PDP, and I dare say the entire country, no part is up, for play for the PDP because of these same things I have mentioned. Because a lot of people are not happy, even within the PDP. A lot of the members of PDP, top members of the PDP that I have spoken to are not happy with the happenings in the PDP. And in particular in the Southeast, a lot of the members of the PDP are distraught with the PDP because of these same issues. Because the Southeast has been a part of the country that has supported the PDP all through. But when it came to simply keeping to the rules, simply abiding by its constitution, PDP could not do that just because of the interest of one man, Atiku Abubakar. I say this without equivocation. Because of the interest of one man, Atiku Abubakar, PDP had to throw away the same thing PDP did in 2011. Because of the interest of one man, Goodluck Jonathan, PDP threw away the zoning arrangement of the country. So these have been the issues with the PDP, having to respect the interest of one man beyond the interest of the party and even beyond the interest of the country. And that has been the bane of the PDP. And I think people have seen how PDP has operated. And of course, it is left for Nigerians to speak. I wouldn't,
you wouldn't speak on behalf of Nigerians.
It is left for Nigerians to speak to that.
Final word, Mr. Segun Sowunmi. Are you worried about some of your party members? I mean, you heard what former governor of Ekiti State, Ayo Fayose, said, that he believes that a Southerner should be president. Are you worried about some members of your party working against your party? And then what are the mechanisms being put in place to sell your candidate, especially now that people are wondering, if he cannot unify your party, how can he unite Nigeria? Can you hear me, Mr. Sowunmi? All right, I'm not sure Mr. Sowunmi can hear me, but we will take a break now. We've been speaking with Mr. Segun Sowunmi. He's the spokesperson of Atiku Presidential Campaign. He's also an Ogun PDP governorship candidate, the Ogun PDP governorship candidate. We've also been speaking with Jimmy Abia, who is a political analyst. Thank you, gentlemen, for speaking to us.
My pleasure.